Hello, reporting to you live from the front lines of the JK Fantasy Football League. This week was a pretty impressive one, at least in terms of the highest and the lowest scores. Several teams at opposite extremes from each other. The Kentucky Fox put up 179 points this week, which I think is a record for the league. So if anyone's wondering where their fantasy points this week went this week, since most of the scores are all lowered apart from theirs, I think they stole them. So if you see an aardvark, insult it or something. I don't know. Let's see. It's time to start talking about our records and getting locked up for the playoffs or not. All right, it's maybe a little early, but there does seem to be some things worth mentioning. We have two teams on opposite extremes. Goofy Ridge Runners have managed to pull themselves to a 4-1 record despite Matt Forte's drop off, and scored 144 points this week. That doesn't make him a lock for the playoffs, but it makes him pretty confident that they're going to get in. So all spots are still available, but at least one seems pretty certain to go to the Goofy Ridge Runners. On the opposite end of the extreme, we've got Not Jerry's Cowboys, who are struggling despite their first victory last week, who are now at 1-4. Again, perfectly capable of getting in to the playoffs at this point, but they're probably going to have to put up a winning streak over the next couple of weeks at some point in order to find themselves in contention. Everyone else is at 3-2 or 2-3 because we're the unoriginals, I guess, and can't quite make up our minds. I didn't do a video last week, or a Welcome to Week 5 video, so let me just say, hope you enjoyed Week 5. I did a waiver wire video before Week 5 began, though, so I kind of felt like I had a day off, honestly. How did I do? Not great, I guess. Not Jerry's Cowboys did pick up Quincy, and he put up his floor, I think, of 9 points, so that wouldn't have helped too much. And honestly, up against the Kentucky Aardvarks this week, this was the week to have a bad score, let's face it. Now, doing your best in a week that the opposite team's going to put up a league high 179 points, what's the point? Really, you're going to lose either way, so you may as well have your bad week this week. Don't blame them at all. Russell Wilson was picked up, and I mentioned him, but I think that's kind of cheating because I picked him up. Smallwood still failing to draw interest, especially Ryan Matthews is still back, I guess. I did mention a few of the tight ends. I think Brait, I mentioned he got picked up and used on Monday night and eventually did come through, although picking up 30 points from Tellus Bennett off the waiver wire is probably the move of the week. It was mine, of course, because I totally saw that coming. That was nothing to do with not wanting to wait till Monday night to know if I won or lost, and I would not have gone with Brait if it wasn't for the schedule at all. I really would have. I hate having to wait till Monday night to find out. So I got lucky there, and I think I found my tight end for a little while. One way or the other, the Patriots seem ready to roll, just like Tom Brady did last time he came off this suspension. So let's see, what else is to announce? Like I say, everyone else is at 2-3, all scored respectably in and around 100 to 140 points. Everyone just casually strolling to the playoffs, not willing quite yet to make their break and show how hard they're going to fight to be the number 2 of the league. And I'm kind of taking the same leisurely stroll. It's a certainty already for me, so some weeks I just put in the minimal effort. I'm just going to win, not going to thrash the opposing team. I'm sure some of you feel that way while you fight to be the number 2. So, with that being said, NFL news is done far better by everyone else, so I'm certainly going to parrot other interesting news relevant to our waiver wire, drawn from people who actually know about football, not me, but apply it more specifically to our waiver wire, since there are specific and unique players available to every waiver wire. We still have D'Angelo Williams dropped after Le'Veon Bell comes back, which makes sense because we've got a small bench, but if anyone's looking for a top 5 running back, if and when something bad or good happens, maybe Le'Veon Bell gets promoted to like sports anchor or something, I don't know, then he's on there. So is Mike Wallace, who's been, I don't know, shouldn't be, but remarkably consistent as a second wide receiver, at least around 10 to 14 points, and some weeks he breaks out with a long one. Someone on everyone's waiver wire list this week is probably Jeremy Curley. He's just eating up small targets because Blaine Gabbert can't throw it any further. Now that might be not worth investing in. It's up to you. What the hell do I know? But something I have read is that Kaepernick may be coming back as early as next week, and sometimes the receivers getting used can change with a quarterback switch. And he is dangerous because he's basically eating up garbage production. But still, he put up a pretty impressive total last week. That did Brandon LaFell, also on a waiver wire. But once again, I think he was just eating up targets that Andy Dalton couldn't get to A.J. Green because he's Andy Dalton. And sometimes that's going to happen if there's good coverage. And this week he gets up against New England, and I'm a little afraid to use A.J. Green this week, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend Brandon LaFell. Adam Thielen stepped in for Stephon Diggs, and again put up 25 points, but they're on bye this week. And I expect Diggs back, but still a speculative name if you really feel like you're struggling at wide receiver. Tight ends might be even better for our waiver wire. It's really, I think it's really easy to stream them. Again, I got lucky with 30 points, but Hunter Henry was picked up and dropped. He's still available. Dropped for Brayton in the end, I think. But he still put up his standard 16 points, which is if Antonio Gates isn't in the lineup, and he was a little bit this week, but if he's generally not a full go, then Phillip Rivers is still willing to pretend that he is and just keep throwing it to the tight end anyway, I guess. So rookie tight end actually putting up numbers. It's pretty cool. Dwayne Allen did the same, but I had him, and I honestly think that's going to go back and forth between him and Jack Doyle all year. And if you watch the game, I don't know how many games you get to watch. I maybe get to watch a half of one every week, which is fun. But in the Colts game, he fumbled one, he lost one, he moved, and they got a penalty for it. He seems to be a little all over the place right now, so they might move away from him. I dropped Eric Ebron because he was considered doubtful last week. He's got a groin injury, though. We're trying to give him an extra week to get over. He's on the waiver wire, and I think he's going to go back, whenever he comes back, to being a focal point of that offense. And I think Detroit was struggling. Actually, one of my worst moves, that I took Wentz and dropped Stafford, and I would have been 2 points better just to keep Stafford. So maybe I know nothing. Anyway, Jalen Richard was the running back in Oakland that wasn't picked up. I saw DeAndre Washington gone. And I didn't bite on that and did it over it because both of them seem to be putting up similar numbers, and in this one they kind of reversed their numbers. DeAndre, who was picked up, became the pass catcher, and Jalen, who was still on the waiver wire, did a little better in passing and also a little better in rushing. I think it's the offensive line. When Murray gets back, he'll be doing well again, and they're just going to split it. I think anyone running behind this line is going to put up numbers. Both of these seem to be pass catchers, though, and that's really valuable since we're a PPR league. So even Jalen Richard, or I think you meant to say it, Rashad, not mentioned in waiver wire columns, but he's still going to be getting catches. They're going to be splitting it three ways when Murray gets back. But if you're stretching to find a running back, I think all three are going to get catches, and all three seem to be able to do something if they get the luck or get the right carry, because that offensive line is just dominating. Name that is on waiver wire lists, and he is available on ours, is Chris Hogan. But that's because everyone on the Patriots is now completely ownable. He's more of a hit or miss. He's going to put up 2 points one week and then 15 points again, like he did this week, because that's what he is. He's going to run down the field and he'll catch those 4 targets, or he won't. But he is available, and Sammy Coates was picked up. He's been a little more consistent, but he's some kind of player for Pittsburgh, so he should probably be picked up if you're looking for wide receivers. Although, like with tight ends, we seem to be wide receiver rich, at least wide receiver too rich on the waiver wire. Which also put Cameron Meredith in that category. Seems one of the more unlikely names, but I did hear someone mention him last week, but then I was like, nah. But he put up 27 points, which might be the waiver wire wonder of the week. Still on a waiver wire. Kevin White's on the IR. He's going to be there pretty much for the season. He's not going to be much of an impact when he comes back, or if he comes back. Meredith is a surprise name because I don't think he was even drafted. But one of the reasons was he was a converted quarterback to wide receiver in college, so he didn't have very long to actually put up production before the draft for when he wanted to come out. Actually, it happened. And what I'm reading is that he has the athletic profile and everything, and maybe now he's learnt the job. And the reason he may have been overlooked in the draft and then in everyone else's lineup is because of that switching from quarterback to wide receiver late in his college career. But who knows? Corey Coleman's out there too, and if he ever comes back, and he has not been put on IR, so some people are still holding him to IR players because they might come back in 8 weeks. Corey Coleman seems like just as good of a bet. Again, these are all wide receivers, so and looking around the league, everyone seems pretty comfortable with their wide receivers. But throwing it out there. Jerick McKinnon, my guy, really struggled this week. He did excellent for like the first quarter of the first quarter. He was just doing his thing, and they kept feeding him the ball, but for some reason he just stopped producing yards. Matt Asiata therefore got the role. Again, they're on bye this week, but if you think that's going to be a permanent change, I don't. I'm keeping McKinnon, but I don't know why he even produced, but then again, I don't know what it's like to play football, or really what football is. So there we go. But still, he's on the waiver wire. Running backs seem in a shorter supply in our league than anything else, so it's definitely worth a mention. Speaking of running backs, the name that is on a waiver wire that probably will be on whatever waiver wire column you read is Jaquez Rogers. Tampa Bay. Sims is now on IR, won't be back for at least 8 weeks because they're not allowed to bring him back for at least 8 weeks. I don't know. I'd be rushing out if you've got the number one claim or whatever to get Rogers, but what do I know? I mean, I've made enough bad calls, obviously. I don't buy it. He's really small, and while I don't necessarily think that's like I like McKinnon, he's meant to be smaller. I think the Bucks would just, we only need him for this game. Let's use him as much as we can, and if he breaks, then it's okay. Which is a horrible thing to say, but there you go. Doug Martin's coming back, and that offense in general seems to be struggling. So who knows? But yeah, I think those are the only running backs I can think of that are on a waiver wire that might be worth pickup. I mean, I'm mentioning backup running backs like D'Angelo Williams, so you can see it's pretty thin out there. One note, Josh Ferguson, not just because he's a Colt, he keeps failing to do anything with it, but he's getting a lot of targets. And again, we're a PPR league, and he's a satellite back, or a guy who catches passes out of the running back position, whatever that's called now. If he caught like half the passes he was getting thrown, he would be a startable RA too. I don't know if he's going to start doing that, or where we place that, since I can see that Jay Ajayi, who's at least getting the workload now, they're not producing much. Bobby Rainey, who's getting the passes in New York, but then New York running game looks awful again as I'm reading. Cameron Payne got 20 points last week, and I think he's going to be one of those guys when the Panthers use him. If he gets volume, he's going to put it up until Jonathan Stewart comes back. But it's also worth noting Jonathan Stewart's still on our waiver wire, just in case you had forgotten or hadn't noticed. Justin Fassett's on our waiver wire. If you like him or don't, it doesn't look like ESPN's updated, but he's just been signed by the Lions. Again, what I'm reading is that doesn't matter at all, but some people really liked him on Baltimore, and the Lions are missing a heavier back. Theo Riddick's struggling in that role. He's a fantastic back, but not in that role necessarily. And so maybe outside shot there that Forsett does it again. And you know, all our backups are out there. Alfred Morris, James Starks. If you want a tip and your waiver wise before or after me, I'm not picking up James Starks, even though Lacey seems to be injured. I've played that game and I don't enjoy it. If he's not there, I'm just going to go to my next back. So he's all yours. Go claim him. Have fun. So yeah, I can't see any more actual starters, and those are the main backups I can think of when I look through our waiver wire. So we're richer at tight end, and wide receiver, as I imagine most leagues are. But also I think streaming defenses is a little rough this week. I noticed a few people doing that along with me. Well, there's some good defenses out there. The top matchup, which is normally, I don't know how you stream, but it's normally what I look for, is actually you have to bet on the Titans. And that's not exactly thrilling, but they're the ones going up against Cleveland this week, and Cleveland gives points to the defense on the opposite side, and McCowan might get back to play for them, maybe, or it's going to be Cody Kessler. maybe, whichever one gets healthy or doesn't get healthy. Or we might be looking at Terrell Pryor honestly playing a whole game at quarterback, I guess. I think they just signed someone, but he's got to know less about the system. So whoever's holding on to Terrell Pryor, I forget, you're welcome. I'm going to pretend I mentioned him and therefore you picked him up. But if he plays a whole game as a quarterback, even if he stinks, it's pretty good. For a wide receiver, you often see that missed designation going on. So it's nice to see it again. I'm just talking at this point. I keep thinking I'll think about something entertaining to say. There you go. Alright. Shout out. Doofy Ridge Runners are desperately trying to trade Matt Ryan away, and he is right. He's a top 5 quarterback and has been for a while, and he did win a game in Denver, which is pretty hard to do. Only with 15 points, but still, he's been a top 5 quarterback outside there. So if anyone's looking for another quarterback, well, he win in a 10-team league, but there you go. Then Matt Ryan's available. I'm willing to trade 2 players at any time because I'd love to bet on Cameron Meredith or someone else. I just can't fit him in my lineup as it is. So if anyone's looking for a 2-for-1 deal, upgrade one of my wide receivers or running backs. Yeah, sure. If anyone doesn't know, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, there is a trading block where you can show people what you want to trade and what you're trade for on your team page. Just below the scoreboard tab is a little trading block thing. See that only 3 of us go on there and update and change it. So I was just wondering if no one wanted to or no one cared. And now if no one does it, I know that no one cares. And I won't have to mention it again. So there you go. Let's see. Highest point trophy has been awarded for this week, and the lowest one is automatic. And I think that will go out after the stat corrections, which I believe are Wednesday. So I think they'll make that official for Not Jerry's Cowboys, who are racking up trophies, which I'm sure look great in their cabinet. But at this point, I think you need to stop playing with us. The Dak Prescott gambit, strategically, I don't think I'd go for it, but he definitely seems to be a phenomenon in the sense that he's producing for you. And I think it's time you lived up to your quarterback pick there and start putting up a winning streak. Not that we need anyone else in this middle tier. We are just all at 2 and 3 or 3 or 2, and at this point I have honestly no idea which way it's going to go, other than the fact that I'm going to win. I know that, obviously, but trying to guess who's going to be the number 2 of the league. I guess the Goofy Ridge Runners have the edge right now, but I've got no idea who he's going to be playing against before he gets to me in the final. So, yeah. I don't know if the British superiority thing is still funny, but it's all I got, so I'm going to run with it. I hope you've had a good week. I hope you enjoyed week 5. Good luck in week 6. Set your waiver wire claims for any of those players or any ones I didn't mention, which is probably the better idea. And good luck in week 6. Thanks for sticking with it, and you keep fighting to be in the number 2 of the league. It's really impressive.